Happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to those of you who have served or are serving currently in our military. Thank you for fighting for our freedom. Thank you for what you do and keeping us safe in this wonderful country. Square Circle Radio is on the air, brought to you by our partners at SportsWire Radio. Thank you so much for choosing our show to get your wrestling fix this week. We know that you could choose a whole lot of wrestling shows. There's a lot of content out there, but you have chosen us. Thank you so much for doing that. Whatever platform that you're on, like, subscribe, follow, all the things, we would appreciate it very much. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting Chris Belcher, and I say we, but as I look around, there's nobody here but moi. It is a solo mission on this episode, and I have not done one of these, in quite some time. So it's going to be an adventure to see what comes out. Hopefully I can keep you entertained. Hopefully you're digging what we're doing. We appreciate you coming back. If you're not a first-time listener, if you're a frequent subscriber and viewer of the show, if this is your first time, again, like I said a minute ago, whatever platform that you're on, make sure you're following. Make sure you subscribe. Podcast is available wherever you find your podcast, on Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. And then, of course, on our YouTube channel, hit that like button. Let me tell you something about our YouTube channel. A few weeks ago, I told you guys that our listen to me. I can't even talk already. Goodness. Backlash review show was our most viewed non-live video on our YouTube channel. And we thank you so much for doing that. However, you guys have stepped up the game. This past week, our Double or Nothing and King and Queen of the Ring preview show blew that one out of the water, became our most viewed long-form video on our podcast feed, that on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for making that happen. And I say long-form video because our buddy, the president, Tyler Jackson, helped us put together a short. We posted our first short on our YouTube channel, and it has garnered over 1,200 views. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are checking out our episode as a result of stumbling on us on our YouTube channel, thank you so much for doing that. Here's a tip. About 10% of our viewers from those shows have subscribed to the channel. What does that mean? It's really easy for you. Please hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it very, very much. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps us a ton. Now, listen, I've rambled a whole lot. Let's get to the content. I'm going to debut, before I get to King and Queen of the Ring and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to debut a new segment here on this week's episode. And again, because I'm by myself, I have the authority to do so. When Andy York comes back next week, he might shoot this down. He might like it. We'll see what happens. It might be the only time you get to hear it, but I'm going to talk about it. This segment is called Kickin It Old School. Now, if you've followed our podcast for quite some time, we did some old school specific episodes, and we threw this segment in every now and then as well. I'm going to bring it back because I think it's super important to revisit this week in wrestling history. What's happened? Who do we need to celebrate? That kind of thing. So this could be a segment. It could be a whole show in the near future. Who knows? We'll see how it goes though. But regardless, Kicking It Old School today as we sit here, as I'm recording on Monday, May the 27th. You're listening to this on the 28th, hopefully the day that it drops. But 28 years ago on May 27th, 1996, I remember it just like it was yesterday. This guy right here, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, I've got this figure in front of me. Came out of the crowd in a blue jean vest and blue jeans and black boots with his hair slicked back and a toothpick in his mouth. Of course, I'm talking about Scott Hall walking out on Monday Nitro, interrupting a match and saying, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." news that would rock the wrestling world. Well, at least me and my 8-year-old mind, because I wasn't surfing the dirt sheets at the time, and the dirt sheets had it out. You know, Scott had wrestled the night before in Madison Square Garden, fell in defeat to Triple H in his final obligation for the WWF, and I think the crowd chanted that night, like, please don't go, or pay this man or something. And Scott Hall looked back at the curtain and he did, the money sign. He said, tell him to pay me the money and I'll stay. He said he didn't want to go. WCW was offering a whole bunch of money for less dates, helping to take care of him and his family. And it wouldn't be long after that this guy standing right here, again, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, Kevin Nash right here, would show up. A couple of weeks later, he would get the same deal, thereabouts, more money, less dates, leaving the WWF, and guaranteed money. That was the big deal. That's what set the wrestling world on fire, because before then, hey, listen, you were only guaranteed like $150 a year or something stupid like that, or $150 a show. I don't remember exactly what the number was that the WWF was offering, but they were offering opportunity. That's what the narrative was. And WCW, with Ted Turner's money, wanted to beat Vince McMahon on Monday nights, gave it to Eric Bischoff, and Eric likes to refute that he had a blank checkbook and just could write whatever he wants. But listen, billionaire Ted's money went a long way. Let me just tell you. And it went a long way in bringing these two guys in from the WWF, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, starting the NWO and changing the wrestling business as we know it. I remember a couple of weeks later, after Nash had debuted, we saw them taking over the show and beating people up with what us as young fans, I say me, and I grew up during the Monday Night Wars, flipping channels and that sort of thing. What us young fans didn't realize is that on house shows, that's where they would try out matches, or they're setting up for a big show or what have you. So my family and I went to a house show in, I would assume it was sometime in June. Yeah, that would make sense. Ahead of Bash at the Beach. Because Bash at the Beach was the hostile takeover match. It was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and their mystery third man against Sting, Lex Luger, and the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Well, at a house show sometime after that, it was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash versus Sting and Lex Luger in a tag team match. So my brother and I, we were there and watched the match go down. I don't exactly remember the finish. I think it was some sort of schmoz, something or other. Anywho, we were sitting literally on top of the entranceway for this house show. So even back in those days, they really didn't set up lights and a stage like they do now for house shows. It literally, they just came out of a tunnel. We literally were on top of the entranceway. So when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash came back through the curtain, we thought we were so smart and we thought we were so cool that we would yell out, "Hey, Diesel! Hey, Razor!" Like they'd never heard that before. But in our young minds, they hadn't heard that. And we were just digging right at them, right where they coming out of the entrance. But super, super cool to see these guys go into WCW, re-debut in WCW, do their thing, and again, just flip the wrestling world on its head. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you have to give me a second. I'm going to get these guys out of the way. Awesome figures, by the way. If you're not a wrestling figure collector, this is super cool. It's the Monday Night Wars line that Mattel has just come out with, these elite figures. You got Scott Hall, you got Kevin Nash. Hulk Hogan is in the first series, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker. And then in the second series, you got Kevin Nash. You've got Triple H, and the other couple escape me. But anyway, some good figures. I say that on the YouTube channel because I'm going to set these guys aside because I'm afraid that I'm going to knock them over in doing this podcast. Not to say that me doing a podcast, like, I don't know, fight somebody in here, but you should never know. I like to talk with my hands. I like to get animated. I like to get excited. What I also like to do, real quick, is take a swig for the working man since I'm by myself. So hang tight 1 second. Sorry, I tried to hit the mute button there. That way you guys wouldn't hear me drink and hear the ice roll around, but I hit the mute button a little too soon. So, again, I'm flying solo on this mission, so I hope you guys are digging what we're doing. The other thing that I like to do is I want to plug our friends, and like I said at the top, Sports Wire Radio, our exclusive partner, our only partner, only one I plan on having. Tom and the crew over there take care of us so well. If you're not following him on Twitter, it's at Thomas Bryce 2017. If you're not listening to SportsWire Radio, what are you doing? Listen live at sportswireradio.org. That is sports with a Z, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They take care of you, all of your sports needs, all of your wrestling needs. They've got it all going at SportsWire Radio. Join the conversation on social media. Use the hashtag #AllWrestlingMatters, and let's support the cause. These guys deserve it. They've been our partners, like I said, since almost, it feels like day one. But they play our show all the time. If you're listening to us on SportsWire Radio, keep it tuned in right here. They will get you covered, get you set up with, all of your sports needs. Make sure that you're taken care of. All right. Let's talk WWE King and Queen of the Ring from this past Saturday in Jeddah. Yeah, it was Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I got confused for a minute because they also announced that Crown Jewel will be in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, coming in the first weekend of November, I believe. So they announced that during the show. So I got a little bit confused there. But this one was in Jeddah. It was this past Saturday. A loaded card. Really good show from top to bottom. And as I'm recording this, Monday Night Raw is going on. Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch are going at it in a steel cage right now. So we will see how that one finishes. But let's talk about their match from this past Saturday. Liv Morgan, not necessarily ending the revenge tour, but a really big stop, winning the Women's World Championship from Becky Lynch. Becky losing it in her first title defense. Of course, like I said, rematch happening right now on Monday Night Raw. Looks like it could be the swan song of Becky Lynch for a little while. Seems like her contract runs out this month. Now, I hesitate to say that it does run out this month because I'm not in WWE legal. I'm not Triple H. I'm not Nick Khan. I'm not on the board of TKO. I don't have access to those things. I'm only reading what the dirt sheets are reporting. Now, there are some very reliable sources that are reporting that her contract ends at the end of this week, which would effectively be at the end of this month. So we tend to believe that that is the case. However, WWE has not said that, so we don't know for sure. Now, Becky Lynch did have a backstage promo with Lyra Valkyria tonight, and some of the things she said very much alluded to the fact that her contract is running out and she's not going to re-sign. I believe that. I have the tendency to think that we have seen the last of Becky Lynch as a full-time competitor. I do believe she'll take some time away from WWE, maybe a year, maybe 6 months, maybe come back around Royal Rumble time, maybe make a surprise return, and she's a part-time competitor. And she'll wrestle Rumble to WrestleMania, and we'll get her at the big events, what have you. They'll bring her back for Saudi, but she will not be a regular on TV like she is right now. Having said that, I do not believe she'll sign with AEW. I do not believe she'll sign a full-time deal with New Japan, Impact, or TNA, whatever they're going by now these days. I don't believe she'll sign a deal with any of those. Now, might she make an appearance for New Japan? And I think that could be part of a WWE deal. Yeah, I think we mentioned that last week. But regardless, I think we have seen the last of Becky Lynch as a full-time competitor. And you know what? That's okay. Becky Lynch has done a lot of great things in this business and will continue to do great things outside of the ring as well. She's a mom. We know that Seth Rollins has been vocal about, time is precious and his kid's growing up and he wants to be there. And I'm sure Becky feels the exact same way. So we will have to see what the future of Becky Lynch holds. But for now, we will enjoy this one last match going on Monday Night Raw while we can. And we will look back on the career of Becky Lynch, and hopefully she'll be back sooner rather than later. But only time will tell. Let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about Liv Morgan, who won the match with help from Dominic Mysterio. Surprise, surprise. Who said he flew all the way across the world to make sure Mommy's championship did not fall into the hands of Liv Morgan, but slid that chair in the ring, confused Becky Lynch. That moment of hesitation allowed Liv to capitalize and become the Women's World Champion. Now we've seen this tension between Dom and between Liv, and we saw Liv last week, I think it was last week, with Dom's bandana just poking out of her pocket. We saw them come out of a locker room together in the background of a shot. I don't think they can keep them apart much longer. Let's put it that way. I have the tendency to believe that they should put them together. They should officially be together the night that Rhea Ripley comes back. So let's say that best case scenario, Rhea Ripley comes back Money in the Bank. She's ready to go by SummerSlam. Well, then your money match is obviously Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. Now, I'm not predicting who's going to win that match. I know a lot of people just think Rhea should just take the belt back and whatever. Could go the other way, but my prediction would be that Liv wrestles someone at Money in the Bank, and Dom officially aligns himself with Liv, helps her out. They're celebrating in the ring. Boom, Rhea Ripley's music hits. She shows up. The place goes nuts. And just what Dom didn't want. He didn't want Mommy to find out that Liv had the championship. He didn't want Mommy to find out that he was part of it. He didn't want Mommy to find out that he's maybe sneaking around with Liv Morgan or whatever. And boom, she shows up, and there we go. Instant babyface Rhea Ripley, and the heat goes on Dom that much more, and of course Liv Morgan as well. So would be very interested to see how they line that up. Again, if Rhea is not ready by SummerSlam, I don't know how much you can drag out Liv and Dom being separate, and are they not, what have you. Again, all this may be a moot point by the end of this Raw match here in a couple of minutes. So as I continue to go through this King and Queen of the Ring recap, I'm so used to saying just King of the Ring. That's what it was for forever. King and Queen of the Ring recap. As I'm going through it, I'll circle back and I'll keep an eye on. I've got Monday Night Raw on right over here. So I'll keep an eye on that, and because again, it might be a moot point. Dom may join Liv tonight. I don't know. So could be a moot point. We'll talk about it here in a minute. Let's talk about Sami Zayn retaining the Intercontinental Championship in a triple threat match against Bronson Reed and Chad Gable. The match delivered for sure. Andy and I were on the podcast last week, and we both said that we weren't necessarily great, or weren't necessarily high on this match. Weren't looking forward to it. We assumed that Bronson Reed would eat the pin, as he did. But the real story of the match, and we saw it continue to develop on Monday Night Raw tonight, is this tension between Otis and Chad Gable, specifically Chad and the rest of the Alpha Academy, but more specifically at King and Queen of the Ring, it was Chad and Otis. Chad trying to get him to help him. Otis kept questioning himself, and then when he finally went to help him, boom, he accidentally hit Chad, just adding more fuel to the fire. WWE doing their best to try to get Otis back to that pre-pandemic spot where he was so popular. They're doing a great job. Lots of chance for Otis tonight. He's such a lovable guy. He's such a popular character. You got to think we're going Chad Gable Otis at SummerSlam. Hopefully Otis will get the big win there. Awesome moment for Sami Zayn to be able to successfully defend the Intercontinental Championship in Saudi Arabia. We know he didn't go there for a long time, but it seems like he's there now and he's embracing it. And again, I'm not going to get into all those particulars, quite frankly, because I don't know all the details of that, and I don't want to say something incorrect. But regardless, Sami is able to enjoy being in Saudi Arabia and having this awesome moment. So a fun match, really good triple threat match. I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Let's talk about the Queen of the Ring final. Now, before that we get into the Queen of the Ring final, on SmackDown, I'm sorry, I think it was before SmackDown, actually, when they did the press conference, Triple H announced, well, what do you know? I'm watching Raw. There's Dominic Mysterio. Here we go. Okay. So Triple H announces that the winner of both the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments would be able to get a shot at SummerSlam at the world titles of their brands. So what that means is that Nia Jax, after defeating Lyra Valkyria in the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament, is going to be the one to get the shot at seemingly Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship at SummerSlam. She is on SmackDown. A hard-fought battle, though, by Lyra Valkyria. Bayley versus Nia, very interesting matchup for sure. I'd be interested to see, man, if Bayley keeps the title. I don't know. I've not been a huge fan of Nia, but I could see them putting the title on her. Honestly, it makes sense. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Really cool finish to the Lyra Valkyria versus Nia Jax match. Lyra going for a second rope power bomb, but Nia countering it with the Annihilator. Really cool. Really innovative finish. And definitely, I mean, you could have counted to 100. Nia Jax winning that match. And, I'd like to see, oftentimes we see in I'm watching Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw ended with a face-off between Dom and Liv Morgan. Liv retaining her championship. It looked like that Braun Strowman came out as Judgment Day was at ringside. Braun Strowman came out and was chasing Judgment Day around the ring, and Dom hit the cage door as the cage door was open as he opened it for Becky. He hit the cage door. It hit Becky in the face and allowed Liv to crawl out. So very interesting finish. And then those two face to face. I would be interested to see Nia Jax change her character and become Queen Nia Jax. I think it fits her more than I don't want to say it fits her more than it fits Gunther, but we'll talk about him in a minute. But we often see the King and Queen of the Ring change their gimmick. We saw Xavier Woods tap into it a little bit, but he still did a lot of the New Day stuff. We saw Zelina Vega completely embrace it, as rightfully she should. Wade Barrett did it. Booker T did it. Owen Hart became the King of Hearts when Owen won it. Mabel became King Mabel. So lots of people change their gimmick when they win this tournament. So I think this would fit Nia Jax because a lot of people don't like Nia Jax. We haven't spoke too fondly of her on this podcast, if I'm being honest. I think a character change would help her out a lot. And I think it's a great time to do that now that she's won this tournament. She's won the crown. It just feeds more into her heel character. So I think that should be a way to go for Nia Jax and her change. I mentioned Gunther. Gunther winning the men's King of the Ring tournament against Randy Orton. Controversial finish, but a good finish. Still trying to protect Randy. I'm anxious to see what they do with that this Friday on SmackDown, how that gets addressed. Does that grant Randy a shot at Cody? I don't know. Maybe. Does that mean Triple H hinted at it in the interview that he did? Does that mean rematch between Gunther and Randy Orton possibly at Clash at the Castle? I don't know. In any event, the match was exactly what it needed to be. It was slow, as we figured it would be, but it wasn't full of Randy Orton rest holds and all that kind of stuff. It was good. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Slow, methodical, yet awesome between these guys. A perfect King of the Ring final. There's a lot of talk about Jey Uso versus Tama Tonga. Lots of possibilities there, but Gunther versus Randy Orton, a fantastic match, a fantastic way to end this tournament. As Andy has said, one of the best King of the Ring tournaments in history. I tend to agree, but Gunther coming out on top. And maybe Gunther, I mean, we saw him them say the King General instead of the Ring General. I would like to see him embrace it a little bit, but don't call him King Gunther and don't come out in the crown and the robe and all that kind of stuff, because you're good just like you are. Let's not change that. Let's say swing a Mountain Dew for the worker man. Hang tight. Those of you on the YouTube channel might be distracted by that, and I apologize. All right. Let's move on to Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. Cody retaining the Undisputed Universal Championship. They've ditched the Universal, it seems. And you would think that'd be a slip of the tongue for me, but they had it on a graphic at the show. So I'm really confused as to why they had it on a graphic, because they haven't said it in several weeks. So I'm not quite sure if that means anything or what. But regardless, Cody Rhodes defeating Logan Paul, retaining his championship. A really, really, really great match. Probably not Logan's best. I have the tendency to go back to that Roman Reigns match as Logan's best match that he's had in WWE. But regardless, a great match. Cody has put on 2 bangers since he has become the undisputed WWE champion. Of course, the first one being at Backlash with AJ Styles, and now with Logan Paul. Just some really good stuff, really good storytelling throughout this match. The drone shot of Logan Paul doing the frog splash, man, that was so cool. A unique way to see that. And apparently, according to Reddit and some things floating around, my buddy Jason Backwood sent this to me. Shout out to you, bro. Apparently this was Logan Paul's idea, that he wanted to do the drone shot, wanted to do something creative. Apparently he pitched it for WrestleMania and it had like venue issues or something. I don't know for sure. Regardless, super cool shot. Again, really fun match. Cody hitting a vertebreaker in WWE. Oh my gosh. That was wild. You wonder, because the ref was knocked down at that point, you wonder if the ref would have like called a DQ or something, if he would have seen it. But the really interesting story coming out of this, one more point, and I'll get that interesting story. I hate that Cody had to use 3 crossroads in this match to get it done. I feel like that is saved for special occasions. He didn't do it for AJ Styles. I don't know why he had to do it for Logan Paul, but regardless, he did it. It's fine. Hate that he had to do it, though. The story of this match, though, that has the internet wrestling community just buzzing, is this Michael Cole versus Logan Paul feud. I mean, we know that Michael Cole is very vocal about his feelings toward Dominic Mysterio and has been ever since he feuded with Ray back at WrestleMania 39 and all that kind of stuff. So we know that without Vince McMahon in the fold, Michael Cole the reins have been taken off, and Cole's been able to be more of himself, express his feelings, and that's all well and good. We're all for that because Michael Cole is solidifying himself as one of, if not the greatest play-by-play announcer in the history of wrestling. And he's been able to do that in the last 2 years or whatever it's been. But his interactions with Logan Paul at King and Queen of the Ring was just incredible. Calling him a loser, getting up in his face. I mean, are we busting out the orange singlet? Are we going to see Michael Cole versus Logan Paul? I mean, who knows? A lot of people are saying that Corey Graves can be the caveat for Michael Cole. He can jump in and have the match with Logan Paul. He did get in between them with pay-per-view. That was cool, but I think the more likely scenario is Pat McAfee versus Logan Paul at some point. You talk about a social media headline. You talk about mainstream viewership, mainstream attention on the WWE. You take Logan Paul, one of the biggest YouTube creators, content creators, most well-known people in the social media sphere, versus Pat McAfee, who has one of the top talk shows in the world of sports right now, is a well-known figure, former NFL player. I mean, you talk about the sports world, not just wrestling, the sports world, grabbing that headline, man. Promos those two guys could cut against each other. And then the bell rings. And then the athleticism between those two guys. Oh, man. Sign me up, because I think that is a money match. Whether that's at SummerSlam, whether it goes all the way to WrestleMania, I don't know. But, man, sign me up. I think that would be so good. Couple other notes on the pay-per-view to point out, not match specifically. We learned on the pay-per-view that Drew McIntyre is officially cleared and that he will face Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash at the Castle. Man, we wanted this, and it's everybody's pointing to it like, oh, well, this is Drew's moment. He's going to win the world title. Well, not so fast. I can see a scenario where he does, because Gunther versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, I mean, who's not going to want to see that? It's going to be an incredible match. But it's also the scenario in which CM Punk comes out at Clash at the Castle and again costs Drew McIntyre his championship, and you get the money match of Punk and Drew at SummerSlam, and then you get Gunther and Damian Priest at SummerSlam. I don't know. Could go a lot of different ways. I'm excited to see which way they go with it. There was a promo to kick off Raw tonight. I did not get to tune into it, so I'm not going to speak on it. I don't want to say anything incorrect or dumb. But Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest, Clash at the Castle in 3 weeks. June the 15th, I believe, is the date on that. So it'll be exciting to talk about that over the next couple of weeks. Now, 2 days later is a Monday Night Raw, and it's June the 17th, which is the new date in which it seems like all signs are pointing to the debut of Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six. No, we did not get them at King and Queen of the Ring. We didn't even get a video package. We got a QR code, and that QR code and another one tonight on Monday Night Raw pointing you to June the 17th, Monday Night Raw. I don't know what the significance of that is. I could, at Chris Belcher 24 on social media, leave your comments on this YouTube video. Let me know what I'm missing about June the 17th. I'm not sure. I didn't have time to look it up before we started recording. I'll look it up, and maybe we'll talk about it next week when Andy comes back. In fact, I'm sure that we will, because that's, again, 3 weeks away. So we'll have to see. Hopefully this means the Wyatt Six and Uncle Howdy are on Monday Night Raw. I think that benefits them, because Raw's a 3-hour show. This Uncle Howdy stuff and Wyatt Six stuff, I think it takes time to be able to make that story go. And they need all kinds of space, because that 2-hour SmackDown show, it's kind of cramped as it is. So you don't want to try to add a huge story into it where you're having to explain a lot of things, and maybe it expands over a couple of segments, so that takes up the majority of the show. So I think it's great that they'll be on Monday Night Raw for time purposes. And number two, so they're staying away from Cody Rhodes. Andy and I said it last week. Please keep Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six away from Cody Rhodes. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, ultimate heels, ultimate babyface, blah, blah, blah. No. We saw what happened with Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins. It took Seth Rollins 2 years to recover from what happened with Bray Wyatt. I don't blame that on Bray Wyatt. Just a bad situation. So keep them far away from your top babyface, especially if you're trying to make Cody Rhodes the face of this company. Why in the world would you bring an exciting heel in and have them feud with each other? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care who the Wyatt Six attack on Raw. Care less who they go after. Everybody is free game to me. But Again, except for Seth Rollins whenever he comes back. Let's not do that again. But anybody else is fine. One last note about King and Queen of the Ring. No bloodline representation whatsoever on the show. And that is huge because I can't remember the last time that there was no bloodline representation on a show, period. I have no idea when the last time that happened was. The bloodline has been running things since August of 2020. No, August 2020, SummerSlam, I think it was August 30th, is when Roman returned. And then September the 7th, I think it was the next pay-per-view. It was a weird 1 week thing. Roman wins the title, and then we're off and running. So let's just say September of 2020. Man, from September 2020 to May 2024, 3.5 years, you can count on one hand how many times there was no bloodline representation on a pay-per-view. Now, we're not just talking about Roman Reigns. And we're not just talking about Jey Uso, who used to be in the bloodline. Now he's off on his own. He wasn't even on the show. Whew. Just interesting. Just interesting. They're making us wait. It's a slow burn with this bloodline stuff. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, we appreciate it very, very much. If you're interested in our thoughts on this expansion, on the bloodline, we had a great segment a couple of weeks ago on our show. You can go back and check out that individual YouTube video on our channel. We got several playlists on there where you can check out trivia stuff, past interviews that we've done, past pay-per-view recaps and previews, and full episodes. All of that stuff is on our YouTube channel. So, if you are watching us, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. As I explained to you earlier, it doesn't cost you a thing, helps us out a ton. We would appreciate it so very much. Also, like the video. It helps the algorithm. I'm not sure exactly how, but just hit that like button. If you want to leave us a comment, we would appreciate that. We'll respond to you. We would appreciate that very much. We'll also respond to you on social media. We are at SQCircle_radio on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I am at Chris Belcher 24. And if you're watching on a YouTube video, you can see all those handles right there. Yeah, right there on the screen. They're there for you. So just make sure that you interact with us. We would appreciate it very, very much. All right. As I get ready to close up shop here, I know it might be a little bit shorter of an episode than you're used to from us. But again, I'm flying solo, so that's just that. But as we get ready to wind down on this week's episode, AEW Double or Nothing was this weekend. Now, we are mainly a WWE podcast. But when AEW does a pay-per-view, we talk about it. And Andy is normally the one that gives us all of our context, and he fills us in on the stories and all those things. He's not here. Okay, so I'm going to do the best that I can for that reason, number one, and number two, because I didn't watch the whole show. I tuned in for the last 5 matches or so. But I'll give some quick thoughts on the things that I did watch, and then we'll go from there. As you can see, I am sporting the Rated R Superstar Edge / Adam Copeland, sporting one of his shirts, and just by happenstance, honestly. But Adam Copeland versus Malachi Black was probably the best match that I watched, on the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Now, I know Will Ospreay and Roderick Strong kicked off the show, and apparently it was a barn burner and all those kind of things. And I'll talk about Anarchy in the Arena and Swerve and Christian and all that kind of stuff. And Mox and Takeshita and all those kind of things. But Adam Copeland, Malachi Black, best match that I saw. It was brutal from the beginning. There was blood gushing from Malachi Black. I don't even think we were 2 minutes into the match. The brutality made sense in this match. That's important because I'm gonna go the opposite way here in a minute. The brutality made sense in this match because of the blood feud that they're having. They were in a barbed wire steel cage match. If you're not going to bleed in a barbed wire steel cage match, what's the point in having it? But it was great. They ended up making it outside of the ring, and the fake out with the House of Black seemingly turning on Malachi and then attacking Edge. Oh man, that was incredible. They had the whole crowd, they had all the viewers. I mean, it was a great tease. And then Gangrel showed up. I mean, there's been lots of talk recently about how Edge tried to get Gangrel for WrestleMania 39 and it got shot down and he just wasn't going to win that battle. Well, man, you had to know when Edge was now outnumbered, Gangrel showing up, super, super cool. He made an appearance in, it's like a Hardy compound match or something. It was Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. I think it was in 2020 or something like that. Anyway, he was on that show. He made a quick appearance there. But anyway, him showing up was poetic with Edge here. Speaking of Edge, Adam Copeland, thoughts and prayers and well wishes on his recovery to his injury. We don't exactly know what it is. He landed kind of awkwardly on his foot whenever he did the big elbow drop. Could have been somewhere else in the match as well, but hopefully he is not on the shelf for too long. All right. I said that the violence and the brutality was needed, and it made sense in that match. I know the match is called Anarchy in the Arena, people, but it seemed like it was violent to be violent. And I'm just shooting from the hip here. I'm just being honest. Mainly because I'm the only one on the podcast right now. There were some cool spots. Don't get me wrong. And I honestly, and Andy I'm going to be shocked by this. I honestly didn't mind the Darby Allin hanging spot. It bothered me from a perspective of you have Martha Hart in the fold and, the whole Owen situation and all that kind of stuff. It bothered me from that. But then I remembered, okay, we're in Las Vegas. I'm sure there are stunt coordinators and magicians and all that can show them how to properly do that. And, nothing's going to happen. So I didn't necessarily mind that. But everything else, like, I don't know, man. Just a lot of stuff that just was violent to be violent. It didn't make any sense. And then dragging Tony Khan out there and then nothing happened. Like, why? Why did you drag Tony Khan out and then not do anything with him? Like, at least, man, I don't know. I thought for sure we were getting a Tony Khan heel turn, especially when Jack Perry drug him out there. I'm like, come on, let's go. And then it didn't happen. So, very disappointed by the ending of that. I know the match again is Anarchy, but not my thing. Swerve and Christian was fine. It was a little bit slow, honestly. I almost fell asleep, but I was also tired. So, but it was okay. Slow, but it was good. Swerve getting the win is the right move. Mercedes Moné versus Willow Nightingale, predictable. Pretty good match, but predictable with Mercedes getting the win. Andy actually called last week. He called Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander turning. They didn't go with Mercedes, though. They just turned on Willow. So very, very interesting. A good match. We kind of knew Mercedes was going to win, get her crowning moment, and see where the women's division goes. I honestly thought Britt Baker would come out and confront her after she won, but didn't happen. Totally fine. The other thing that I'll mention about Double or Nothing is I'm sure people will want our comments on is MJF and his return confronting Adam Cole. The only thing I'll say about it is it's good for AEW. They need to find a way to put that belt on MJF as soon as possible. Got a huge crowd reaction. He's clearly a babyface. He's clearly embracing that role. But honestly, and this is my personal feelings, and again, I'll respond to whatever you want to respond to, and this is just me being honest. MJF is one of the reasons I don't like AEW. I don't like his character. I don't like what he portrays. I don't like the language that he uses. I just think it's unnecessary. So, it's just me. But he's one of the reasons I don't like it. But that's for their crowd, and they ate it up. More power to them. And that'll be that. All right, that's going to do it for this week on Squared Circle Radio. We appreciate you guys hanging out with me, not us, me, I appreciate you doing that. Again, if you're watching on a YouTube channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure that if you're listening on podcast that you follow the show, and I think you can leave us a comment on Spotify. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, would you please? We would appreciate it. It helps the show a ton. Again, doesn't cost you a thing to do any of that stuff, but it helps us out more than you know. I gave you those social media handles earlier. I'll do that again one more time. I am at Chris Belcher 24. The show is at SQ_radio. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Go follow us. Go interact with us. We would appreciate it very much. Cannot forget our friends at Sports Wire Radio, Tom and the crew. Again, a fantastic job of keeping you up to date on all of your sports coverage, all of your wrestling coverage, and everything in between. Make sure you're following at Thomas Bryce 2017 on Twitter. Join the conversation with hashtag All Wrestling Matters. I know they would appreciate it, and we would appreciate you supporting them as well. As we get out of here, one quick programming note. The MCWF, our fantasy booking show that is available on Thursdays, audio only on this very podcast feed. Week 17, our go home show will air this Thursday at its normal time. However, we are going to have to postpone the pay-per-view until next Thursday. So not this Saturday, next Thursday. Honestly, we just have not had time to record it. And this week is not going to get any easier. So we're going to have to postpone that pay-per-view, and it just is what it is. But we'll get that content to you. We are very excited about pay-per-view number 4. So if you dig fantasy booking, it's a different show. So make sure that you are tuned in every Thursday for that show. Next week, Mr. Andy York will be back, and he'll correct anything that I missed. He'll talk glowingly about AEW. I know we love the show. I know a lot of people love the show. We'll get into that next week, I'm sure. All right. No use in planning any content for next week because the wrestling world is probably going to flip on its head. But keep it tuned in right here to Squared Circle Radio so that you can hear what we have to say about it. All right. My name is Chris Belcher. Thank you for listening to Squared Circle Radio, and we will catch you guys down the road.